story that I just went through this past summer. So, long story short, was in the hospital. They, we went to the emergency room when I was having some trouble breathing. And we got there, they took some CT scans and x-rays, which is hard to read at this point for me anyways. But we did it anyways and tried to compare it to previous exams. And when we got the results back, they gave me oxygen as well to help me breathe. Took blood work and whole 9 yards. So anyways, they came back with the exam results and told me that I had chronic bronchiectasis. And that led to a whole slew of antibiotics. They tried to kill the infection that they thought that I had. They treated my lungs as if they had an infection. And one thing led to another where they had me undergo a bronchoscopy under general anesthesia with intubation. 5 days later, after intubation, they finally extubated me. And when I was extubated, I could not breathe. There was no gasping for air, no talking, obviously. It was just stunned silence. And over time, the ICU doctors kept telling me that once they put me on a BiPAP machine when I was extubated, they kept telling me and my family that I likely wasn't going to live past a year, let's say. Not in those particular words, but the particular phrasing was months rather than years to live. And so we started talking about end of days. And in hindsight, this whole experience was traumatic as it was, but it was really eye-opening because it reminded me to think things through deeper. I mean, obviously, I was having my own bodily issues to focus on, and so my mindset was calm, but still distracted, if you will, by all the doctors and what's going on, and trying to heal my body at the same time. It's complicated. It's very complicated. So I was distracted. My family was distracted. And so in hindsight, I probably had chronic bronchiectasis the whole time anyways, even before I went to the hospital, before I was starting to have trouble breathing. So if I came in with it, but they started treating it as an infection, that's where things went downhill. So what this experience taught me was maybe we shouldn't believe everything that we hear, because let's think about this. You go to the emergency room, and what are the doctors trying to do there? They're trying to get you in and out, or they're trying to find a problem and then address the problem with a solution. And so someone like me goes into the emergency room with all these chronic health problems, chronic health issues, and these funny looking x-rays and CAT scans. What are they going to do? They're going to find a problem. They're going to find a solution. But the thing about that is sometimes sometimes there is a smaller problem, and sometimes there is a bigger problem, and it's hard to distinguish between the two. But I don't blame the doctors for trying to find the solution, because that's why I went to the emergency room, right, to fix at least the immediate problem, which was I was having trouble keeping my oxygen sats up, up above 90. And so they addressed it, but they ended up causing a lot of the problems that that continued. Again, the diagnosis was pretty complicated for me, anyways. But they kept me in the hospital for a month and a half. A month and a half, and I was in the ICU for most of that time. And it was scary. It was not a it was not a fun time. And eventually, towards the end or middle of my stay, I began to take charge of my self, my life, my health at the time. And I eventually started to get better. I constantly worked day after day, even just baby steps. I worked my butt off to get out of that bed, to walk around, and just a couple of weeks later, to leave without any ventilation machine, semi-walking, able to at least navigate myself around a room, go to the bathroom, shower, and whatnot. It was still not easy at the time, but I could do it. And I pushed myself to get out of the hospital, to get out of that mindset. If I wanted to stay in that hospital for longer, I probably could have. I mean, 24-hour nurse service, they've got TV in the room, most of them. They've got games, they've got couches. All things considered, it's a fairly nice place, at least where I was at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. I understand not every hospital is like that, but still, if I wanted to stay, I could have. And who benefits from that? The hospitals. The hospitals, they're getting all the money the longer you stay. And so they are profiting off of our sickness. And I know that might sound like a cynical thing to say, but it's the truth. The hospitals want you to stay longer. So if you can break yourself out of the mindset, break yourself out of what they are telling you, what not only hospitals, but what the society is telling us about chronic illness or about disability, which is what we're going to talk about next. If we can break ourselves out of that mentality, we can once again begin to see what's possible and what do we want our reality to be. Because in a lot of ways, the reality that is put upon us by those who profit on us does not always have to be our personal reality. So I challenge you to think a little bit more about that. Various things, various ways in your life.